Greetings and welcome to the ROI Clear podcast. This is Ray Hightower, and today we are fortunate to have as our guest Mr. John Ainsworth. John Ainsworth is CEO and founder of Data Driven Marketing. And prior to the beginning of this interview, we were talking a little bit about what that means and how education ties in with that. So I'm really looking forward to our discussion today. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming John Ainsworth. Welcome, John.
Thank you so much. Great to be here.
Glad to have you here. And it's so wonderful with the technology. It doesn't matter where anyone is. You happen to be in London. I'm in Phoenix. You know, you're in London, England. I'm in Phoenix, Arizona, USA. So it's great that we can be brought together this way and have a great discussion. To kick things off, why don't we start with an elevator pitch? And for those who are new to the ROI Clear podcast, John is on an elevator with someone he wants to influence. So we are asking him, what would you say to that person in the course of an elevator ride?
Yeah, I run data-driven marketing. And what we do is we work with online course creators who've already got an audience. That could be on YouTube or podcast or search engine optimization or Instagram, wherever it might happen to be. And they're already making money. And then what we do is we help them by building sales funnels and doing email marketing for them. And on average, we help people to 5 times their revenue. And we're so confident that it works that we do it mostly paid on results. And we're really picky about who we work with, but that's our shtick. That's what we do.
That is remarkable. You are so confident in your results that you're paid on results and you're promoting 5x your revenue. Very serious uptick. Any entrepreneur would certainly want that. Can you tell us a little bit? Let's back up a bit. You said that you're working with people who already have an online course. What does someone have to have in place in order to work with you? Yes, an online course, but I would imagine there's a little bit more to it than that. Maybe some other details that you could share with our audience.
Yeah, so we're working with people who've got a course that's got product market fit or multiple courses. And they're generally cheaper courses, stuff that you can sell just through email promotions. We're not helping people to do sales calls. We're not helping people generally to do webinars. We do, but that's not our main thing. So it's what's the kind of courses that you can sell through email promotion to a sales page, then to a checkout page, and someone will go just buy directly. So it tends to be stuff in the kind of $100 to maybe $1,000 price range, depending on if it's in the finance niche or the hobby niche or whatever that might be. They've already got an email list, generally 30,000 people plus, and they've already got an audience somewhere. Like I said, could be 1 million people on YouTube or 500,000 website visitors a month or something like that. It's kind of the volume of that that's the important thing for us. They also have to already be making sales of that course, and the refund rate has to be low. So that we know that the people who are buying the course like it. They've got good product market fit. It's already proven that audience buys courses. Once they've got that in place, and a lot of creators who've built up an audience over a long time and started making these courses, they've got all of that. They don't know how to do the thing where they convert the audience to buy the courses. It's just people just hear them and then go check it out and buy stuff. And they don't know how do you actually get people from your audience onto the email list to the sales page, sales page to the checkout page people to buy, people who buy to buy more. That's our part. And so if someone's got everything else in place, then we turn up and we work with them on that. So for example, we've got a client who is working with architects. So he's an architect himself, and he helps other architects to run their business more efficiently. Make sure they understand, how do you actually run this as a business properly? How do you get enough of the right clients in? What kind of projects do you take on? What kind of team do you have, etc.? And he'd been running his YouTube channel for about 10 years, built it up to over 1 million subscribers, and was making like $25,000 a month, which is good. But it wasn't great. It wasn't what he felt like he should be getting to.
Yes.
And so he'd already got his courses. He'd already got his audience. He'd started to build up the email list. And we worked with him in the second month that he worked with us. He went from $25,000 to $120,000 in that month. So that's the kind of thing when someone's got everything else in place that we can turn up and help them to do.
So when you're saying 5X, you're not saying 5X over the next 5 years or 5X over the next 3 years, but we just saw it's very close to 5X. That's like 4.7X or whatever, but still in 1 month, you were able to take them from, okay. So the bottom line is your ideal client is someone who already has a product that is worthwhile, that people are buying already. And you have a methodology that is an accelerant for their success. They need to have already proven that they're successful. As you said, 30,000 at least on their email list, perhaps millions of viewers, people who are already on there and, maybe making, like you said, the example you gave, 25,000 a month, maybe, already making some money. And that's good money, 25,000. And you're saying dollars, not pounds, right? You're saying dollars.
Yeah,
or
this
pounds?
is US dollars. Yeah,
Okay, US
that's kind of the
dollars.
international currency nowadays, right? So that's what I talk in.
Okay, got it. Just to make sure we got that. So they're already making that. And so you are an accelerant. You know what I like to think of? It's kind of like if somebody is they want to start a fire, you don't just what's a good an accelerant for a fire only works if there's a spark already, if there's a flame already. You can pour all the gasoline that you want on cold wood. If there's no fire there, or you have no way of starting a spark, that's just going to be wood soaked in gasoline. But if there's a spark there already, you and your team can throw the accelerant on there. Is that a fair metaphor? Or am I off base?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely bang on track. That's the part of the way that I think about it is it's really, really, really hard to start a business and get it going and get all the right things in place. And it's very difficult to build a big audience. Like someone's got 1 million YouTube subscribers. They have put work into that. There are lots of people who fell by the wayside who didn't manage that. It's much harder to build a big audience than to make a good course. It's actually like it's not easy to make a good course, but relatively, like you could do it in 3 months or 6 months if you've already built up the expertise in the topic. But before building an audience, you have to have built up the expertise and then spend 10 years or 5 years or whatever it is building up that big audience. So they've done all of this work, they've built all this latent potential. Then we're able to come along and help them to actually turn that into money.
Wonderful.
It's like, how do you get the results for it? Like we had a client recently who she built up a big YouTube audience. She's in the language learning space and she got like 6 million YouTube subscribers. And she was making maybe a few thousand a month. We helped her to about 60 times her revenue. So she went to making like a couple of $100,000 a month. So that's not always possible, but with someone who's got that big of an audience, that's the kind of thing that we can help them to then do.
And you can accelerate that. That's wonderful. Now, we have a lot of people who are our listeners. A lot of our listeners are people who are experts in whatever niche that they're in. Some are software developers, some do commercial real estate. There are some physicians there, a wide variety of industries there. And if they don't already have a learning platform, but they want to work with you or they see themselves working with you in a year or 2 years, what advice would you give them to get themselves to the position where they could eventually work with you and take advantage of your acceleration?
Yeah, well, I think there's a couple of things. I think, first of all, if you're not already doing it, start work on building up your audience. Like, what's your best channel that you could be using? Is it YouTube? Is it podcast? Is it socials? Is it through search engine optimization? What's the best traffic source for you? Maybe you're already doing something around that. Which one could you double down on and grow that more? And really lean into that, because it can take a long time to build an audience. And so doing a lot of work around that, making sure you're creating the best content that there is on that topic, that you're sharing it in the right way and getting it out there. And building the audience isn't my specific expertise. I'm learning about that. I'm starting to build up our podcasts. We've got a podcast, The Art of Selling Online Courses, and I'm building up our YouTube channel, our socials, and I'm getting better at doing that. So that's one part. Later on, once you've started getting that in place and you're building that up and that's all going well, if you've got this expertise that you want to share with people, my suggestion, if you haven't made the course already, is to start out with doing maybe a group coaching program, like a cohort, something like that. And what you can do is then teach that course live to people, and you get to see their feedback as you're doing it. So you don't have to have everything perfect when you're doing it live. You can have it a little bit more rough and ready, and people are a bit more forgiving of you. And so you work, and you can charge more money for it when you're doing it live, and people are able to ask you questions as well. So you might charge $2,000, $5,000 per person who's going through, depending on what topic it is and what you're teaching them. So you go through and you teach, and then you go, this bit didn't quite work, and that bit wasn't quite right, and this thing wasn't quite exactly what I was after, and you redo it and you give it another go and you launch it again to another group. And you can do that with just a few people, or you could do a bigger group. I'd maybe start with about 10 spaces the first time you go through, because too few people, you're not getting enough feedback. Too many people, and then it's tricky if anything isn't quite perfect. And you refine it and you refine it, and eventually when you're like, I got this. This is nailed. This is the way you teach this thing. Everyone's got the right resources. They understand what I'm saying. They're getting results when they go through it. then you can take your version then and turn that into a course. And if you've managed to build up the audience, you've built up the email list, and you've got the course, now you're ready to go and actually put the whole thing out there. So Ali Abdaal is a quite big YouTuber. He's got like 4 or 5 million subscribers. And this is exactly what he did with his course about how to build your own YouTube channel. I went through his course recently, but he's been doing it as cohorts for years. He's done like 6 or 7 different go-throughs where he did it live and then saw which people got the most results and figured out how they could improve it and did it again and again and again. Eventually, he had the curriculum nailed, he had the format of it nailed, and then he turned it into a course and sold that separately. And it's fantastic if anybody's interested in learning how to grow their YouTube channel.
Yes, absolutely. And if there's a link to that material, we can include that in the show notes. We'll make sure that we add that, because we want to provide those resources so people can be prepared to work with you. As you were going through that example, I was thinking of something. That's what comedians do. They'll go and try out their new material at a small club where there aren't a whole lot of people there. And, if somebody laughs, they'll keep the joke, or they might refine it, or, change the timing a little bit. And then when we see them on Netflix or a live at Madison Square Garden or whatever, they have already worked those jokes over and over again before the general audience sees them. So yeah, that is very sound advice, and it has worked in many other places as well. This is excellent. And I'm aware that preachers do that as well. People think of Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech being given in 1964, but he was actually using that line in churches all throughout the South prior to that. But, just working on the material to get that up and running. So that works well across the board.
Yeah, I did very much the same thing on a much, much smaller scale when I'm giving a presentation at conferences. So I will go and I'll give the talk at a small conference to 40 people, something like that. And I'll record it and I'll watch it back and I'll be like, which bits worked, which bits didn't, ask everybody afterwards for feedback, refine it, improve it, go give it at a slightly bigger conference and kind of work up until you're getting it in front of normally in the bigger kind of ones I'm going to, it's like maybe 400 people. So it's still not massive, but it's like it's by that point, I know that what I'm saying is going to land and it'll work really well. And that process is super helpful.
Yep. Wonderful. Now, every time I meet a superhero, I have to ask them about their origin story. So maybe you can share with us the origin story for data-driven marketing. Tell us a story.
So I used to work in marketing for fitness, and that was helping gyms and yoga studios and other kind of, karate clubs, this kind of thing. I was helping them to fill up and get lots more members and people coming along and taking part. And I'd done this for a few years, and then I read this book called .com Secrets by Russell Brunson, and it was all about funnels and how you could build these different types of funnels. And I started working around that and playing with that. And I was like, oh, this is some clever stuff. And so I started getting really good at filling up all these gyms and these yoga studios and what have you, to the point where they would just get so full that they had no more capacity, and then they didn't need me anymore. And it was really weird because I'm like, oh, I'm too good at doing this thing. So I started looking around. I was like, either I could do it less well so I can keep people paying me every month, or I could look for somewhere there's more capacity. And I started trying to figure what kind of business would I work with that would have that extra capacity. And I tried out working with software businesses and with e-commerce and with online courses. And the online course one was the one that really stuck. People generally, when they're selling online courses, are doing it more from a point of view of passion about helping their students than they are about the profit they make. Of course, everyone likes to make profit. Nothing wrong with that, definitely. But they tend to be that they're passionate about getting this information out into the world. And so we were talking earlier about Sarah Weaver, who's a previous guest on your show.
Yes,
and I was talking with her. We were flying from Bangkok down to Phuket, and she was telling me about her coaching program that she runs for helping people with real estate. And she was so passionate about it. She cared so much about helping people to change their lives and be able to live off the money they make from their real estate investments. And it was really clear, like, she does a lot of different things, but it was really clear that was something she was really passionate about helping people with. And I think that's quite normal. So I really got into how can we help these online course creators to absolutely go and smash it. And obviously there's only a small percentage of people that qualify to work with us. People have already got to have this big audience and a course and an email list, etc. So what I do is I then put as much effort as I can into all of the free stuff like coming on your podcast and talking about this, our YouTube channel, our podcast as well, where we can help people for free to be able to implement these ideas. And it's really fun. You know, I have people come up to me at conferences and say, oh, I heard your talk or I heard your podcast and I implemented the tactics and now I make an extra $5,000 a month or $10,000 a month with no extra work just because my funnel is better. So that's kind of how I got a bit off topic there, but that's kind of how I got to the point we are now with like running this kind of business and why we do what we do.
That's amazing. It's like it's the freemium model, but it's a freemium model that is also a funnel for you. I mean, you're helping people and they're developing their businesses. And as they get better and as they generate more revenue, as they go from 5,000 a month to 25,000 a month, once they hit that 25K, I want to go to 100K, you know, who are they going to call? They're going to call John Ainsworth. So there we go. It's remarkable. All right.
Oh, thank you.
So just listening to that now you have someone, you're doing the freemium. I'm calling it the freemium model. It's not my term. Certainly. I think it was Google or someone in that age, like in the late 90s when I first started to hear that. So you have someone, so they're moving along and then they're almost ready to start working with you. What are some of the first things that you do with a new client when they come on board? Say they've got the audience, they have that initial spark, they have the wood lined up, they're ready for you to pour the accelerant on there. What are some of the things that you need them to do so that they're well positioned to enjoy the benefits of your service?
Yeah, so the first thing we do with everybody is go back to basics, and we want to find out about their customer avatar. So that means we're doing a survey of their audience. We want to understand who is their audience exactly? What things do they want in terms of benefits? What are their pain points? What keeps them up at night? How old do they tend to be? Where are they based? What kind of products have they bought before? If they're customers, why did they buy your products? If they're not customers, how come they haven't bought them yet? What other things are they looking at? Like everything that we can. We want to know more about these people than they know about themselves, so that when we're talking to them, they're like, oh, he's talking to me. He gets me. He understands me. So that's our first step. We want to then set up all of the data tracking so we can actually see how is this funnel working? What step are people dropping out at? How does it compare to our benchmark tracking as well? So we're setting all of that up in month one. And then what we're doing is we're getting into actually writing these email promotions. So the model is actually quite straightforward. And we boiled it down from like all the tactics you could possibly do to these are the ones that work the best. So we've got these eight tactics, and we will do nothing else apart from the tactics that work the absolute best. And so we'll write an email promotion. And so that's a mixture of useful content to make sure that even if someone doesn't want to buy this course, they're still getting great value from being on the email list and they love receiving the emails, mixed with promotion. So if someone is interested and they like this topic and they want to know more about it and they want to get the course, then they're ready to move to the next stage. And it goes from email promotion through to a sales page. And a sales page is very, very important. We make sure that's written absolutely beautifully, designed fantastically, so that the people who it is a good fit for are able to see, this is right for me. This is going to help me solve the problem that I've got. Then from there, people are going through to the checkout page. And on the checkout page, we want to make sure it makes people feel very comfortable. They're like, okay, the product that I was interested in, I see a photo of that product. I see a photo of the person who made the course. I see a guarantee, testimonials, reminder of the benefits, so that all the things they thought about on the sales page that got them to the checkout page, they don't drop back out again. They don't get nervous at the last minute and drop out. Then we're working on two extra things. So order bumps and upsells. How do you get somebody who bought to be aware of the other products that you've got? And
you said another one. You said auto bumps. Is that
order bumps? Yeah, when someone's ordering.
Oh, order bumps. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Upsells. Yeah. Order bumps. Yes. Got it. Yep.
Yeah. So they're both the same concept. It's how can you offer somebody something else they could buy? If you go to McDonald's and you order a Big Mac, they say, do you want fries with that? If you go to the cinema and buy a cinema ticket, they're offering you popcorn. If you buy a car, they're offering you the one with the alloy wheels and the leather seats and the fancy stereo. And you don't have to get it, but it's available. It'll make it nice and easy for you to get those things. So that's the same thing we're doing here. Someone buys one of your courses. Why don't we make the other ones available to them as well? What about other products that you've got that might be relevant, that might be able to offer a great deal if they buy it right now? So an order bump is something on the checkout page, and an upsell is something after they've checked out. You offer them another thing at that stage.
Yeah.
Very similar concept, but just offered at different stages in the checkout process.
Got it. Okay.
So we set all of that up, and then the next thing we're doing is figuring how do we get more of their audience onto their email list. So that means we're creating lead magnets that are incredibly valuable, useful, and free. And if someone signs up, then they go onto the email newsletter list. And so they sign up to the newsletter list, they get the free lead magnet. And we're promoting the heck out of that. We're putting that all over the place, making sure it's on their website, it's in their YouTube videos, it's on their Instagram, etc., regularly, so that the email list gets bigger and bigger. And then all we do is we do that again the next month, and we do it again the next month, and again the next month, and promote all the different courses that they've got, and keep doing that until someone's a millionaire. That's the fundamental idea.
Wow. So you have a system, you've put together a system that works. It's almost like something out of the book Traction by Gino Wickman or E-Myth by Michael Gerber. You have a system that works. And I imagine that you tweak it from time to time as things change in the world. I'm certain that you're constantly tweaking and improving it. You apply that system, and because you apply it over and over again and consistently, it's almost like compound interest. What did Einstein say? A compound interest is the most powerful force in the universe. So you just compound it, and that's how you achieve. I know that took a tremendous amount of thought to put that together. It's probably one of those things where you can execute it relatively easy, but the thought that put into creating it, there was a lot there, I'm sure.
Yeah, there's a lot of 80-20 work, a lot of cutting all of the stuff out that wasn't the top. So it was really interesting. We actually, when we started to get really good at this, was when we built our own course. So we were doing this for people originally, and we had all different kinds of tactics that we used to run. All different kinds of stuff from different marketing gurus, and we ran all these different things. And then we wanted to teach a course, and we wanted it to be a 6-week course. That was the original idea. And so like, right, which of these tactics can we teach in 6 weeks? So we're like, okay, let's go back and look at every tactic we've ever run and look at which of them were the simplest ones to do, were effective, always worked, and made people lots more money and worked for everybody. And like, which of those, where are those tactics? And we found these 8 tactics. It's all the stuff I've just been talking through, the sales pages, checkout pages, order bumps, etc. And we cut it down to that. And so then after we'd done that and we'd made a course about that, we started thinking, well, wait a minute, for our done for you clients, why are we doing all these other tactics that aren't the top ones? Why are we doing these other clever, more complicated things? Why don't we just do the best things? So we started doing that for our clients, for the done for you clients, and the results skyrocketed. It went from being like, oh, we can help people to like, make an extra 50% or 70% more money or double it maybe to 5 times their revenue. And we're like, oh, okay. And recently, I thought that was it. I thought that's as far as you could take it. But recently we went back through and did that again. We're like, oh, there's some other, within those tactics, there were some more little details. We're like, oh, we could cut that. We could cut that. We could cut this out. And really, really, really make it straightforward. And so we've changed the order of some things and cut it back and really refined it so that it works even more effectively. And then that's how come, that continual refinement is how come we can get those kind of results for clients.
Oh boy. You applied the 80-20 rule. You extracted those things that were most effective, the 20% getting you that 80% of results. And then you reapplied the 80-20 rule to that 20%. And then I'd imagine that you're doing that ongoing. Yeah, it's remarkable. So many people are discovering that. I mean, Wilfredo Pareto discovered that hundreds of years ago, but you're rediscovering it. And then, Benjamin Hardy and Dan Sullivan are writing about it in their books. And you are actually executing it. That's so beautiful. You're executing it via boots on the ground right now. This is wonderful. Let me ask you to tell us a story. Is there a client or project that you are especially proud of? And you've done that throughout. In our conversation just over the past 30 minutes or so, you've just done that throughout. Can you share with us a story of someone, a client or a project that you're especially proud of that you helped especially well?
Yeah, so we work with somebody in the spirituality space, and she really is fantastic at helping out her clients. They're raving fans. They absolutely love what she's doing, but they didn't have this whole system in place. They weren't making that much money from their course sales. They weren't making that much money from their membership. They didn't have all of that in place. It was a similar kind of numbers as I was talking about before. So they were doing about 20,000 a month. And we helped them to go from averaging 20,000 a month to averaging 170,000 a month. And what that's meant for them, but also for their customers, is they're reaching all these extra people. They sell courses around self-love and around personal development and relationships, and their customers are just absolutely delighted with what they're getting from them. And so we get to see not just, the improvement in revenue, which is great and is part of the fun, but also the secondary benefit, which is every time they sell a course, they make someone's life better. They make someone feel better about themselves and live a better and more fruitful and beautiful life. And so that's they've been with us for quite a long time, that client. And that's been just a real joy being able to kind of work with them and see what effect that's having.
Yeah, goodness. And if you're able to use your tools to help people in areas of self-love and personal development and relationships, like you said, you're making the world a better place. That's got to make you feel really proud, John. It's got to make you feel really proud.
Yeah,
excellent.
It's beautiful.
Excellent. We're coming towards the end of our time together. This has gone really quick, like a wonderful roller coaster ride of just, and it's exciting and, but now we're pulling back into the station. A couple of things I want to ask you to wrap up. What are you reading right now, or what podcasts are you listening to sharpen your saw and to make sure that you stay abreast of what's going on? And what would you recommend to our audience?
Yeah, so what I've been learning about recently is how do you grow your YouTube channel? This has been absolutely fascinating for me. So one of the things that I've been running my podcast, The Art of Selling Online Courses, for 2 years, and it's been growing steadily. And I think that mostly happens through word of mouth. But there's a couple of ways I feel like you can actually manage to grow a podcast faster. One of them is if you go and you guest on other people's podcasts and spread the word to their audience, which is, part of why I'm here today.
Yes.
And another part is through YouTube and through socials, because there's more of a discoverability there. Podcast doesn't really have that built in, that kind of discoverability element. So I've been learning a lot about how do you grow your YouTube channel? What do you need to have in place? I've been learning a lot about titles and thumbnails and video standards and what kind of camera should you get to make the quality higher? What kind of lighting do you have in place? Background setup, all these kind of details. And so I'm gradually working and improving that. I've recently actually hired a team who they're coming around and they're filming for us for doing YouTube videos. So we're really upping our level on that one. And the course that I've been going through, I mentioned before, it's from Ali Abdal, the YouTuber, and that's been absolutely excellent. He's got a really, really good course there. What was the second question? Sorry.
Oh, yeah. What would you recommend to our audience? You're recommending some things that you use to sharpen yourself. And then what would you recommend to our audience in terms of books or podcasts or what you're doing to learn?
Yeah. So the other thing then that the books that I found absolutely the most helpful that I keep going back to again and again around business have been Traction, around how do you run a business efficiently. That one's absolutely fantastic. Gino Wickman's done a masterful job there. How do you take the chaos that can be business and turn it into a structure and order and make everything run really smoothly? That's fantastic. 80/20 Sales and Marketing from Perry Marshall. This is an absolutely fantastic book. It's probably it's the second really outstanding book that's been written about the 80/20 rule. There's 80/20 principle from Richard Koch, maybe 20 years ago, something like that. And then what Perry Marshall did is he took those ideas and applied it to marketing. And it's so tight, that book. He covers one chapter about USP and another chapter about offers and another chapter about using it for figuring out who to hire and what kind of projects to work on. But each chapter is only like 4 pages long, and he's really cut everything down to the absolute nub. So you get value straight away from each chapter that you go through. I actually interviewed him on our podcast the other day. I was lucky enough to meet him at a dinner in London when he was over here. And I asked him if he'd come on the podcast, and he was gracious enough to accept. So we had a great podcast episode going through and talking about that the other day. So those 2 books, Traction and 80/20 Sales and Marketing, I would thoroughly recommend.
Wonderful. We'll make sure we include those in the show notes. And then finally, how can people get in touch with you, John?
Yeah, so if someone's interested to find out if they qualify to work with us, they can go to datadrivenmarketing.co, and there's a button at the top that just says book a call. And that's going to allow you to book a call with someone from my team who's just going to check with you if you're a good fit. And if you're not a good fit, what we're going to do is send you as many useful free resources as we can to help you with your business. So that even if we're not the right fit for you, we're going to help you to succeed anyway.
Yes. Wonderful.
If you are just interested in learning more from what's been going on, then check out that podcast that I've mentioned a couple of times, The Art of Selling Online Courses, and there's all of our free content there.
Excellent. John Ainsworth, it has been a pleasure having you here on the ROI Clear podcast. We've learned a lot, and we look forward to listening to more of your work.
That's great. Thanks, Ray. Really appreciate your time.